you so much, Lauren, for that wonderful explanation. I'd like to take this time to introduce the panelists for this evening. We have Mr. Aldo Casale, who is a school counselor at West Orange High School. We have Mr. Louis Pallante, who's also a school counselor at the high school. We have Mrs. Rachel Rosen, who's another school counselor at the high school. And lastly, we have Miss Catherine Connors, who wears many hats. She tonight is working in the capacity of the AVID coordinator. I hope I got that right, Miss Connors. Um, so without further ado, we're going to go into tonight's agenda. You're going to be provided with an overview of transitioning to West Orange High School for the upcoming school year. We are going to discuss how the high school is different from the middle school, both middle schools, Liberty and Roosevelt. We're going to review graduation requirements. And lastly, we are going to explain the course selection process.
Good evening, parents. Welcome, welcome. Just to give you a little background on myself, I've been at West Orange for almost 20 years. I have students we all have students in grades 9 through 12. I have, on a personal level, I have two kids myself. One is a high school senior, and I also have an eighth grader. So, like you, this is exciting, and this is it's anxious. I think I'm feeling a lot of things that probably you guys are all feeling. This is a great opportunity, I think, for us to introduce ourselves and to provide you with information on the department and the programs that we have. And hopefully, it's an opportunity for us to help ease some of the concerns and the worries that you have. Freshman year is, it's a time of change. One of the things is obvious. Oh, go back. Yeah, there you go. One of the things is, the school it's a lot bigger than middle school. So, when we talk to our students, it's kind of the first thing they say when we ask them what's one of the biggest differences between high school and middle school. So it's a lot larger. Also as far as there's new courses, adjusting to new teachers, new rules, new policies, and also it's an opportunity for them to meet new friends as well. So I'm gonna kind of jump around a little bit, but just to give you an idea of what we as school counselors do to help the students. Obviously, we're kind of like a jack of all trades. So we'll do the academic advising. We do scheduling. In fact, that's where we're at right now. We're meeting with all of our students. We're scheduling. We also do post-secondary planning, individual counseling, any student concerns. In addition to all of this, what the school counselors do, and this is kind of an important thing that I kind of want to relay to you, is that we meet with small groups at different grade levels. So just to ease some of your concerns and your worries, with our freshmen, we will meet with our freshmen in the fall. I would say right around October, we start to meet with our freshmen in it's small groups, usually it could be anywhere from 2 to 4 kids, give or take. And it's a great opportunity for us to get to know the kids. But it's one of the things that we do is we do meet with the kids in small group meetings. We also coordinate meetings with parents, teachers, and students. And we also provide referrals if a parent is in need of in and outside of school. So one of the things is, yeah, like I said, we're going to meet with the freshmen every year. We meet with our freshmen in October, and it's just for me, it's a great opportunity, to meet the freshmen, to talk to them. I specifically, I think all the counselors do as well, is we try and get to know them a little bit. We talk to them about, hey, what are your interests? What do you envision yourself doing after high school? And I know it sounds early and sometimes they laugh when we ask these questions, but it's kind of good to think about. So, one of the things that I do talk to them about is, where do you see yourself in 4 years from now? And quite often they talk about college, and it's a great segue. And often in those meetings, they're just a good opportunity for them to even just kind of bounce things off each other. It's great to see the meetings, because what happens is the kids are in the meetings, and it's just a discussion amongst themselves. So and often you learn a lot about a kid in those meetings, and what I personally do myself is I'll take notes on what they say in the meetings, and I'll kind of use it like during senior year, during our senior meetings. I'll bring things up, and they giggle about it and they laugh about it. So it's just a great opportunity for us to get to know the kids. A couple of the things that we do talking about is some of the responsibilities that they're going to have, and we talk to them about making good decisions and managing time. We talking about attendance. Um, Another thing is, and a lot of this of what we're talking about to our kids is also kind of what I'm talking about with my own kids. So it's very similar. So I'm speaking to your kids as if I'm like speaking to my own child. Is like even taking the initiative. I think this is an important one. What I talk to the freshmen about is when you need something, when you need help, make sure you reach out to a teacher. Make sure you reach out to your counselor. Let people know, communicate. Those are important things to have, and those are important traits to have. And even just emailing teachers, those are, I think, those are critical things. Like, for my own child, if my own child's struggling with something, I always encourage them to email the teacher. And then obviously I'll always be there to support, but I kind of say the same thing to my freshmen. If you need something, email the teacher. If you need help, come see me and I can help you draft an email if you want. And these are some, and then we start talking about college and career choices. And obviously advocating for yourself. That's a large part of our meetings, our ninth grade meetings. What we're gonna do is at those specific meetings, we talk about seniors, when we talk about senior transcripts. We actually provide them with a sample transcript. And what the transcript is, it's a summary of all the kids' classes and grades from ninth grade through 11th grade. So it has all of the classes, it has all of the final grades, and it has their GPA. Okay. And I think it's important to show them what a transcript looks like, because that's what the colleges are going to see. So we talk to them about their GPA and how grades matter. And that's a really important part of the meeting. But we also like to talk to them about getting involved in extracurricular activities, community service, clubs, sports, or music, anything that they get involved in on a school level, or even if it's outside of school, whether it's church. I think is an important part of this whole process. This is what a transcript looks like. This is a transcript. This is a senior transcript, and this is an important thing that I think we show them. I think it's one of the most important things that we show them, only because if a lot of our students are thinking about going to college, this document right here is probably the most important document that a college can see of a student. It had, like I said, I'm just going to repeat it just because now it's in front of you. It has all of the classes, and this is just a sample. It has all of the classes from ninth grade along with the final grades. All of the classes from 10th grade along with the final grades, 11th grade along with the final grades. And then in the middle area has their GPA from each grade along with the cumulative GPA. And we show them this because we want them to see the importance of getting good grades and how grades can impact, getting into a college. And we talk to them about this being the most important document. So I think that it's important that we not only speak to them about it, but we also show them what a transcript looks like when they are seniors. Now, notice, I know some people may be asking that, wondering why the senior grades aren't on the transcript. The senior grades aren't on the transcript because it's the transcript has only the final grades of each year. So the senior grades won't be on the transcript until the senior year's over. So what does that mean? That means that the GPA, the cumulative GPA, is based only on ninth, 10th, and 11th grade, and we tell them that they have 3 shots to get that GPA right, and then quite often the follow-up question then, and it's a good question, is, well, does that mean senior year doesn't count? And we say absolutely not. Senior year counts, and we talk to them about how colleges are still going to look at their senior year classes, and quite often they're going to ask for their grades. They're going to ask for marking period 1 grades, marking period 2 grades, and they want to see that they're still challenging themselves in courses, that are important. As I discussed earlier, getting involved is huge. Sometimes I have parents ask me, should I have my kid not do anything so that they can focus just on schoolwork? It's a valid question, but I always tell them that students who get involved are typically the ones who are doing the best in school. So my suggestion is to get involved in, like I said, we said sports, music, clubs, activities. It's important just to get involved on that level, because obviously they're going to have this, right? What you see in front of you is a resume. So by getting involved, they're going to be able to put all of the experiences in their resume, but also on a personal level, it helps them to meet people. It helps them, to learn about themselves, what their likes are, what their dislikes are. So I think there's a lot of important quality factors for getting involved. And this is just a sample resume. Um, what we do is we talk about this during our freshman meetings. We talk about kind of starting the resume and putting things in the resume, that they may have done. So we do talk to them about this even at their freshman meetings. We talk to them about this as well. So as far as high school sports, quite often we get questions about sports. There's no credit requirement for incoming students from 8th grade. There is a physical that is required each year. The credits required for second semester sport is 15 credits. I'm sorry, the credits required for first semester based on the previous year is going to be 30 credits. So if your child wants to play a sport, they have had to have 30 credits from the previous year. And all athletes must maintain good academic standing, while they're participating in the sports. So this next slide is it's kind of important in the sense of, as a parent, as a student, if you know that your child, or if you suspect that your child is going or may want to pursue a sport at the collegiate level, either a Division 1 or a Division 2 level, it's going to be important that they meet eligibility through the NCAA clearinghouse. So it's important that, if that's the case, make sure you relay that to your student's counselor, because that automatically is going to start to, it's gonna initiate the conversation with registering for the NCAA. Because if you feel like your child may want to play sport at a Division 1 or Division 2, and even a Division 3 for that matter, they could register for the NCAA. Division 1 and Division 2 must register for the NCAA at some point. They don't have to do it in 9th grade, but at some point they will have to register for the NCAA. And part of the qualifying aspect of it is the GPA. So, I think that that's an important conversation. And this is something that we speak to them about during our freshman meetings. We talk to them, we give them a general kind of, we have a general conversation about this, that, if you're interested in playing a sport on a college level, the GPA is going to be important for qualifying for the NCAA. So it's important that they communicate to us that they want to play, and it's important maybe that the parent communicate to us that they want to play, so that we can kind of help them with the registration process.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Mr. Pallante. I'm another one of the school counselors. This is my 20th year at West Orange High School. A little bit about myself. I have 3 daughters, similar to Mr. Casale, actually. One's in high school. One is actually an 8th grader as well. So in the town I live, we're going through a lot of the same stuff, and we have a lot of the same questions. So what I'm going to talk to you, actually, a couple of things regarding some of the Q&A questions that come up. There's been a lot of questions about the IMS program, the IH program, about AVID, about ROTC. There will be slides relating to that later on. So just hang tight, and we will definitely get to those answers. There's also a question about credits as it relates to sports and things like that. And that's kind of what I'm going to talk about. we're going to talk about basically how do you graduate high school. What I often tell students when we meet with the freshmen is you are doing two things at the same time when it comes to West Orange High School. You are trying to get into college, but you're also trying to graduate high school. And all the grades and all the classes you take are working towards those two things. And just so that you guys understand, that parents understand, that students understand, the reality is it's usually a lot, I don't say easier, it's simpler to graduate from high school than it is to get into college, right? And that's where it comes. If you can go to the next slide, Miss Rosen. We talk about credits. Those are issued by the state of New Jersey or required by the state of New Jersey. So every class you take, if you pass at West Orange High School, you get 5 credits. So any class that's offered full year from September through June is worth 5 credits. Any course that's offered a half year, September through the end of January or February through the end of June, that is worth 2.5 credits. So in high school, each year you are going for up to 40 credits, and there'll be a slide later to kind of go over the schedule, so you'll understand that. What this slide says is we are as counselors working with your children to make sure they are on pace to graduate high school. All right. In West Orange, in order to graduate, okay, you need 135 credits. That is the minimum number of credits you need for graduation. As I said, each student takes roughly 40 credits per year times 4 years. So students are aiming for 160 to 165 credits. Okay. Ultimately, as long as you get an A, a B, a C, or a D, as long as you pass a class, you will get credits. You will get the credits. So that's why I said credits are different than a GPA, as Mr. Casale was talking about. GPA, there's a scale. A gets you so many points, B gets you a certain amount of points, C and D. When it comes to credits, as long as you pass, you get credits. All right. This is the state requirements of New Jersey. So in order to graduate high school, we as counselors have to ensure that each one of your children has met these requirements. All right. So if we look, I'm not going to go through everything, but if you see where it says number 1, English, in order to graduate in the state of New Jersey, you need at least 20 credits in language arts literacy, ELA, or English. 20 credits basically means you have to take English every year you are in high school. All right. So if you have each class is worth 5 credits times 4 years, that's 20 credits. Okay. Mathematics, the minimum is 15 credits or 3 years of math. Social studies, again, minimum 15 credits, including modern world history, U.S. history 1 and U.S. history 2. Health, safety, and physical education is 3.575 credits. Wait, go back, please. During each year of enrollment and so on down the list. I'm not going through everything, but basically, in order to graduate, this is the minimum, right? You need 4 years of English, 3 years of math, 3 years of social studies, 4 years of gym, 3 years of science, 1 year or 5 credits in visual performing arts, at least 1 year in world languages, at least 1 year or 5 credits in 21st century skills, and then 2.5 credits or a half-year class in financial literacy. So these are the requirements of the state, the minimums that the state of New Jersey has set forth. Now, before I talk about this next slide, I will say we oftentimes, when we talk to students, we tell them that's the minimum. All right. We've been meeting with juniors who are going to be seniors next year, and many of them don't want to take a senior math. And at least with my students, I've made it very clear that the expectation is that you take 4 years of math, because if you intend to go to college, that's what colleges want to see. Okay. This is just an example of a required credit worksheet. This is a worksheet that students can access to kind of plan out, like Mr. Casale was saying, classes that they may want to take to make sure they're on pace to graduate. Let me be clear, though, in saying that we meet with the students probably at more than once, multiple times each year when it comes to career aspirations, when it comes to college goals, when it comes to scheduling for next year. We are guaranteed that, our job is to make sure that the students are on pace to graduate, that they haven't missed any classes, that they are taking the correct courses every year. And what we will often do is provide you with the list of courses when we meet with them, or whether it's with you or with just to them, that you can discuss with them to see the courses they are taking each year, or they are projected to take each year. Miss, if you can go to the next slide. Okay. The promotion policy. This is a big issue for students. As I said, each student goes for 40 credits each year, give or take. In order to become a 10th grader, students must accrue 30 credits. In order to become an 11th grader, students must accrue 65 credits. In order to become a senior or a 12th grader, they need 100 credits. So as I said, look, there is a little leeway in there. So if a student fails 1 or 2 classes, it's not impossible to graduate. But there are students who struggle at times, and that's a conversation we have with them. And our biggest carrot to dangle, I guess, is that if you want to be considered a 12th grader in your 4th year of high school, you need to have 100 credits. And if you don't, your report card, your schedule will say 11th grader. So that, ends up being a good motivation at times. Next slide, please. Okay, now the rotating drop schedule. This is hard to see, but I'm just going to talk for a minute about this. So at West Orange High School, we work on what's called a rotating drop schedule. I'm going to do my best to explain it. It may not make a whole lot of sense. Basically, each student's schedule is 8 periods. Okay, each student has a period 1, 2, 3, all the way through period 8. The way the rotating drop schedule works is students do not go to all 8 periods every day. Let's say 10 years ago, some years ago, I don't know how long ago, the administration decided that it would be more beneficial for students to go to fewer classes for a longer amount of time. So it used to be each class is 40 minutes and you went to all eight classes every day. The way it works now, there's A days, B days, C days, and D days, and each day you drop 2 classes. Similarly, the schedule rotates. So on A days, if I don't know if you can read this, it's a little small. On A days, you go to periods 1, period 2, period 3, then lunch. After lunch, you go to period 5, period 6, period 7, and then the day's over. So on A days, period 4 and period 8 drop out. You do not have them 4 or 8. The next day is a B day. It rotates. So you start with period 4. That's better, I guess. That's period 4, period 1, period 2. Then lunch, period 8, period 5, period 6. And you drop classes period 3 and 7. Now, I'll say this. It's confusing. For some freshmen, it's a little scary. They get used to it, right? The freshmen get used to it in a week or two. And generally, students I've been here 20 years, half and half of old schedule and this schedule, I think. Students seem to prefer this schedule for 2 reasons. Number one, lunch ends up being 53 minutes. It used to be 26. So they enjoy having that long lunch. Number two, if there's a class you don't like, there's days you don't have it, right? So if students aren't, math, they're a little math averse, they're a little scared of math, there's days they don't have math. So they tend to like that. So again, that's just a little blurb about the rotating drop schedule. Again, just let your child know it's a little intimidating early on, but they get used to it. Next slide, course selection. So this is for your 8th grade children. I've been told that the period, I think from February 3rd to February 14th is when your children will meet with their counselor to talk about classes for next year. Okay, I don't think I'm stepping on the slides, but a lot of the classes for next year are already determined, right? When incoming freshmen have to take certain classes. They have to take 9th grade English, they have to take biology, they have to take algebra, whatever their next math is, algebra 1 or algebra 2. They have to take 9th grade gym. So what they ultimately get to do is pick electives. And a lot what the counselors will do with them is give them a list of electives. There's a link right there to the program of studies. When you take a look at this slideshow after the fact, you can click on that. That also, the program of studies also will provide some of the flow charts people were asking about earlier.
I'm providing that in the chat now, Lou, for them.
There you go. So there's a link in the chat. There'll be a link to the program of studies, also called the curriculum bulletin. It's basically a catalog describing all the classes, describing all the electives, giving a short little blurb about it, as well as it will provide a lot of the flow charts in terms of if you take this course and you take this course. We don't like to say there's not a lot of tracks because there is a lot of flexibility, a lot of options for students. They don't have to do it this way or that way, but there are avenues with which they can take to get to the course they want to try to get to, in junior and senior year. As it relates to your students who are going to be freshmen next year, that's what. I was ahead of my own self. What does a typical freshman schedule look like? You can go to that slide. It's fine. All freshmen are going to take English 9, biology, modern world history, some math, 9th grade gym / health, whatever the next world language they're taking is, and then get two periods, 10 credits of electives. That's where there's a lot of choice comes in. And what I'll say about that is this: your 8th grade counselor will have you pick a list of electives. What I would like to reiterate, say to the freshmen or 8th graders who are going to be freshmen, just because you pick something doesn't mean you're going to get it, right? The reason we ask you to pick 5, 6, 7, 8 electives is because some of them are very popular. And, about 150 students get to take culinary or cooking. About 400 students request culinary or cooking. So when you get your schedule in August, if you didn't get what you wanted, it's only because it wasn't available at the time. So what we ask you to do is give us options. Give us a number of electives that you would like to take, you'd be okay with, so that you'll be able to get something that you like. Is this still my slide?
I think I jump in now.
Okay, so I'll let it
All
go.
right. Hi, everyone. I'm Rachel Rosen. I'm one of the school counselors here, and I'm going to talk a little bit about choosing electives. We start the process really early, like another counselor mentioned. We're actually starting the process with all of our current students right now. And so what that looks like is it's an in-person meeting with the counselor. Hold on, let me stop my video. It's an in-person meeting with the counselor. They come down to our office. We give them the course selection sheet, which is linked right here. It's also linked a bunch of places on the website, and you guys will have access to that. And it's a full list of all of the electives that we offer by grade level. And it's also broken out by department. So language arts, tech, business, all of that stuff. And then it will also detail if there is a prerequisite or a recommendation required. A lot of our electives are not available to students in 9th grade, but will become available to them as they become upperclassmen. And a lot of the electives may have a prerequisite. So in just going with the culinary example, I think we offer 6 different culinary classes, but you have to kind of take them in order. So you can't go on to one of the 5th or 6th levels, which is, I think, bake shop and creativity and culinary arts. You can't take those classes until you've taken the introduction to culinary classes. And that goes for a lot of our electives, that they kind of go in a sequence, and many of them do have prerequisites. Electives come in 2 forms. They come in half-year or semester electives, and those will be the ones that are showing up in like a grayed out hue on the course selection sheet. And then we also have full year electives. So depending on if you're taking a combination of half-year electives, you may be able to choose, you may be able to have up to 4 half-year electives as a freshman, or you could have 2 full-year electives. You could have 1 and 1. There's a lot of different ways to kind of go about that. We as the counselors also will be checking your students' graduation requirements very often. So not only do we check them each year, but we're making sure that they have room in their schedules, subsequent years to meet that financial literacy requirement, to meet that fine or, performing art requirement. If your child is coming into high school not knowing exactly what they want to do or what areas they want to focus on, it's not a bad idea to have them start with the graduation requirements and get those out of the way. And then that will free their schedule up for more classes that they want to take as an upperclassman. Okay, so I'm going to spend some time talking about the special programs at West Orange High School. The 4 that are available to freshmen are the ROTC program, the AVID Institute, the Institute for Humanities, and the Institute for Math and Science. The ROTC program is designed to be a 4-year program for any students who are looking for a sense of community, a sense of discipline. It's a wonderful program at our school. Kids often get a little weirded out by the fact that they might have to have a certain haircut or wear a uniform to school. I assure you they don't wear uniforms to school every single day, but there will be certain days that they are required to wear their uniform or kept their hair in a certain way. So if that does not sound like your child, it might not be a good idea to apply to that program. But we've seen wonderful success in this program, and it's one of my favorites at the high school. The AVID Institute, I'm gonna give to Miss Connors. I believe she's on here, and she's going to talk a little bit about the AVID program.
Perfect. So I'm Miss Connors. I'm the AVID Institute's district director here for the entire district. So AVID is kind of a unique program. It is, again, it's a 4-year program, just like ROTC, that lasts through all 4 years. And what this program is it's kind of geared towards students we call in the academic middle, right? It's for that student who you feel like they've got potential, and that that they can just use some kind of like extra hands and kind of extra supports in order to meet that full potential here. So like I said, it's a college and career focused program. So it's not just preparing students for college, but also if there's any post-academic careers that they're looking at here as well. So AVID, what it actually stands for, so it is advancement via individual determination. So it's for those students who, have that drive and determination to be successful, but maybe need those extra supports in order to become those things. So the big thing here is that they talked about electives and the different electives. So what AVID does, it does take up one of their elective choices. So in their 9th grade year where they only have room for 2 electives, because if they're in the AVID program, that only allows them to choose 1 elective. And that's something for all 4 years for students to look at when they're trying to figure out these different things here. So the really cool thing about the AVID program is that they're kind of cohorts. So in 9th grade, they've got a teacher and a cohort of students, and they follow that teacher and those students through all 4 years. So there'll be a class, and it's kind of that sense of community and building there that they are able to be in the same classroom with those same kids, with the same teacher, and they build. So big thing like in 9th grade year, they're focusing on how to take notes, how to organize, how to do all of those different things too. So this is just a program to keep in mind here. It's different from, and I know Rachel will talk about the IH and IMS programs, a little bit different for those students. With this program, it's not that we do both. It's kind of like you pick one program because they wouldn't have any room in their schedules for those things. But this is, it's a program here to maintain that organization skills, how to move about classrooms. It's, they're getting more independent here. It's another, again, person that has those checks and supports that are going to help them with, because I saw a question in the chat as well about how do kids do scheduling moving forward, right? They go to the guidance office. So this is another class to help them with those course selections with each year as they move on. As they get to progressing on to their 11th and 12th grade years, it helps them with college applications. All of those, the different parts of creating that, doing their personal statements, all of those different parts that are going to give those extra supports and those extra things to try to boost those particular students. Big thing here is what we promote in the program is that for students who maybe aren't in honors programs, to help them kind of give those extra supports to push into those honors classes in their 10th, 11th, or 12th grade years.
Thank you, Ms. Connors. Okay, so now I'm going to talk a little bit about the IH and IMS programs. And every year I try to debunk the myth that the IH and the IMS programs are more prestigious or more selective, or going to help you, are going to look better on a transcript than a regular honors class. I can confidently tell you that the IH and the IMS program are interest-based programs. You can still take all honors classes and not be in those programs. The main difference between these two programs is that they have elective requirements for 9th and 10th grade, and they may have co-curricular field trips or projects that they may need to do together outside of the classroom. Again, it's that idea to build community with like-minded or, similar kids who have similar interests. But if your child is not really interested in either the humanities or in some sort of STEM related subject, I don't see a reason for your child to apply to the IH or the IMS program. They're both great programs to help children figure out a little bit more specifically what they might be interested within those two subjects. If you guys, I know everyone's been asking for the flow chart. There are flow charts in the programs of studies which detail the electives that students can choose from in both 9th and 10th grade. There's at least 3 or 4 that they can choose from. So I highly suggest looking at those electives. And if your child is not interested in taking those electives, then the IH and the IMS program are not for them because they will be required to take those electives. Does anyone else want to jump in? Did I answer the questions about the IMS? I'm gonna just go back to
You did, Mrs. Rosen. Hi,
Okay.
sorry, it's Dr. Chung. I
Hi.
just wanted to note that the IMS, I did put it in the chat, the IMS and IH applications are typically due the first Friday of February. Most students were already provided with the applications. I am aware that the teachers for IMS and IH just recently visited this particular week. both middle schools.
And I also saw someone asked a question about what if your child is not currently in district and how would they do their scheduling? And that's a great question. We have tons of students who transfer in from out of district into the high school. Essentially, you would just speak directly with your child's school counselor. You can definitely reach out to Dr. Chung towards the end of the year if you don't know who your child's school counselor will be, and they will help you to choose your child's electives. Okay, so I just also want to touch on a few of the other programs that are available to some of the upperclassmen. We have someone asked in the chat about like different VOTEC programs, and I will say that we have a ton of different hands-on programs here, like the business and family consumer science, culinary arts, technology and engineering. And a lot of these classes are dual credit, so you can take exams at the end of the course for college credit. They're called NACTI exams, and students can choose to take them, and if they do well on them, there may be an option to earn college credit. You won't know whether or not you are awarded college credit until your child is almost graduating and they've chosen the college that they're going to go to. At that point, you would send those potential college credits to the college that your child is going to, and it's up to the university's discretion whether or not they're going to grant those credits. Nonetheless, it's something that is offered to students, and students take great advantage of it, and it's usually pretty successful in terms of getting those college credits, but like we said, they are not guaranteed. Another program that you can apply to as a 10th grader, so it goes on for 10th, 11th, and 12th grade, is the ICE program. It stands for Institute for Civic Empowerment. It's similar to the IMS and IH programs in that it's interest-based. There are specific electives that the students are required to take each year: law, rights, and responsibilities in 10th grade, history of race, class, gender in 11th grade, and some sort of gov or politics and additional social studies electives in 12th grade. So again, if your child is not interested in taking those types of classes, then that's not a program for, that your child should be applying to. We also have the dual credit Rutgers Health Sciences program, which is a really popular program for any students that are interested in going into the medical field. And that, again, is, the dual credit, so you could potentially earn college credits. Okay, Naviance. I'm actually the Naviance coordinator for grades 9 through 12. So what Naviance is a software platform that we use to help students in a variety of different ways. The way that you will be interacting with it mostly as the parent of a 9th grader is that you will be getting a lot of our emails and school communication. We do use it as a form of email communication with the school. So it's very possible that you already have a Naviance account because it's at the middle schools. So you will just continue to receive emails and be able to, just know what's going on in the school. We introduce the program on many different levels to the students, mainly to help research colleges, to help figure out different career choices that they may be interested in, to record and monitor personal goals. We showed the example of the resume a few slides back. So that is where all of that information can be housed. We encourage students to add to their resume and update their resume in Naviance each year so that by the time that they're applying to college, they have a very robust resume. And there's a variety of other things that are on there, but essentially, it's mainly used for our purposes as our college planning program. We do have two student assistance counselors at the high school. We call them SACs, Mr. Chiricello and Miss Avery Surak. And their role is a support system in the school to assist families and students with a variety of different issues: mental health, social issues, emotional issues. They may be stepping in to assist families and students with alcohol and drug issues by connecting them to family and community resources, just providing that extra level of support for any students that have any mental health or social emotional issues. And they also serve as a vital role in our 504 and INRS processes at the high school, and as our anti-bullying specialists. So we work collaboratively as a team. We work very closely with the SACs. If your child is in a special education program, they will also have a case manager at the high school. So we all work very collaboratively, in addition to the dean's office, to kind of be that team to help support your children throughout their 4 years in high school. All right, so what's next? Well, between now and the end of the year, your child will be choosing their electives that they're interested in taking. As Mr. Pallante said, we do our best to get the children their first choice. It doesn't always happen like that in 9th grade. I will say that we do give preference to upperclassmen. So like we're meeting with our 11th graders now, and a lot of them are saying, I never got culinary. I never got culinary. They will be first in line to get culinary next year as a 12th grader, but a lot of it's just supply and demand. We have a certain number of seats and sections that we can offer, and there are a lot of electives that are very popular among the children. So give us lots of choices, elective choices. We will do our best to get your child one of their choices. If they don't get the elective that they want, it doesn't mean that that's the end of it. You can always reach out to us as long as it's before school starts and request a change. So don't hesitate to do that. If you know your child gets an elective that was like their third or fourth choice, you can absolutely reach out to us and say, hey, is there any way that we can get them into this class? We'll take a look, and if it's possible, we'll do it. We don't allow elective schedule changes once school starts. So children will often come in after the first week of school, I don't really like that elective. And unfortunately, just due to, the sheer size of the school and the complexity of the scheduling system, we're not able to do that. But up until the first day of school, if you want to request a change, we'll do our very best to accommodate that change. Yeah, make sure you get those elective requests in, complete any applications for special programs by the deadline. And then during the summer, have your children look out for summer assignments. There's almost always a math summer assignment. And then depending on if your children are in honors level classes, there may be additional summer assignments. So those are usually posted to the school website in June, and typically tend to be a pretty hefty part of their first marking period grade. Sign up to attend an orientation in August if you're able to. Someone asked, what if you're traveling or you're not able to come to the orientation? Just reach out to your child's school counselor, and we'll try to set up some sort of like informal tour, or set them up with one of our Mountaineer mentors who are our peer mentors, to have them give them a tour before school starts. Just reach out to us. We want to do everything possible to make your child feel comfortable coming into the school on their first day of high school. Releasing the schedules in August on Power School. Prior to the end of the year, you will be receiving a course list. So you will see the courses that your child is enrolled for. It just won't detail the periods or the teachers, but it will detail the classes that we actually placed your students in. So but anytime between the end of June, or whenever we release that, it's usually mid-June, to the first day of school, that whole time you're able to request changes. But then once school starts, no changes. Helpful links at a glance. I know that none of you are able to click on these links right now, but we will be posting the presentation. We can probably even provide a link for it in the chat right now. So you'll be able to see all the things that we are talking about, the course selection sheet, the program of studies, all the different applications, and all the other links that were in the presentation. And I think that was it. I haven't looked at any of the Q&A questions. Hopefully my colleagues have been answering, but I think now we will open, the floor, and we'll kind of just look at the Q&A and see any that maybe weren't answered. So if you still have a question that you would like to get answered, go ahead and type it in the Q&A right now.
Yeah, I'll just jump in with one because I saw it. Somebody asked, can any of the potential college credit courses be done along with IMS? I mean, the answer to that is they can because they're done at different times. IMS is only a program for the first 2 years of high school. The IMS program is only for 9th and 10th grade. A lot of the college credit courses, the health careers program, some of the NOCTI tests, those are given to junior. Those are given made available as for junior and senior year. So that definitely can happen if the student plans it out properly, because they're offered at different times. Anybody else?
I real quick, I just want to bring something up, and I apologize if this was mentioned. I was trying to answer questions, so I wasn't paying attention, to everybody, what everyone was saying. But some of the parents are asking about students who are not interested in going to college, and that's okay because I know a lot of this was geared towards college, but what we do as counselors is quite often we talk to our students and ask them, what their interests are. And sometimes, from ninth grade or 10th grade or 11th grade, they'll say to us, I want to be a chef, or I want to be an electrician, or I want to be a carpenter. And we'll guide them in that direction. And obviously, we'll talk to them about possibilities after high school that other than just college. So we do talk to them about that. And at some point during high school, your child's going to do like a career interest survey, or a personality type survey. And, that may give them a little more insight into what their interests are as well.
There was, excuse me, sorry. There's a question. Can my child request to be in classes with their friends? The answer, unfortunately, to that is no. Just like I tell all of the students who are scheduling, we cannot honor teacher requests. You can't ask to have a certain teacher. You cannot ask to be in class with friends. And you cannot ask to have gym in the morning, the afternoon. Because if we did it for one person, we have to do it for everybody. And then there'd be some classes with 7 students and some classes with 75 students. So unfortunately, because another question is how many students are in high school, and there's roughly about 2,200, between 21 and 2,200. So because of the huge number of students we have, we cannot honor requests to be with teachers, with friends, certain classes, certain time periods either.
And some of the things at the IMS program, I know we're getting a few questions on this. Some of the visits that the IMS program go to, they'll go to in 9th grade to do a college visit. Actually, I mean, in 9th to 10th grade, they'll go to Stevens Institute of Technology, and just chime in if I'm missing something. But at Stevens, they'll do a Rutgers Engineering Day. We take our students to Rutgers Engineering Day at Rutgers in New Brunswick. There's a planetarium visit. I think the Museum of Natural History is another visit they do. So
And
those
then
are
just to give you an idea, like for the IH program, I know they do a field trip to like the ballet, or they may go to the Metropolitan Museum of Art. So again, it's very interest based. So if your child has interest in those subjects, those are the programs for them.
There's a question, does the high school have robotics, classes, electives? If not, plans on doing that, can we influence the need for this? There are 2 classes. It's called Electronics 1 and Electronics 2, as well as a number of other technology electives. The only issue is for at least for 8th graders, they're not available until, I think, are they available 10th grade and above, or 11th grade and above? So there are some classes that are available, but they're not available to freshmen. So that's what when we meet with students, we kind of say, look at that list, and if you want to take a class that's only available to seniors, you may have to take some of the prerequisites before there. For example, I think Electronics 2 deals a lot more with robotics than Electronics 1, but you would have to take Electronics 1 to be able to get into Electronics 2.
I also wanted to add that someone noted in the chat, if there are different lunch periods at the high school. There aren't different lunch periods. When Mr. Pallante was going over the rotating drop schedule, there is one lunch block called the common lunch block. I believe it starts at like 10:28-ish and finishes around 11:21. So all of the students are eating lunch at the same time. And freshmen do have a particular cafeteria where they eat their lunch. I'm sorry, where they eat their lunch. And it's located right next to Miss Connor's office, actually, for the Restorative Practice Center.
Also, just each year, like the speakers, the guest speakers for IMS do change. I know this year they have a one of the guest speakers is a immunologist from NYU, and also there is a physical therapist, a doctor and a doctor, physical therapist also doing.
And we're always looking for new presenters
Mhm.
or field trip ideas. So if you're in that field and you want to let us know that you'd like to come in and do a presentation, we'd be happy to have you.
Two questions at once, I'll say. How do you request an elective change via email? And when are the counselors available before school starts? So typically, we counselors are available 2 weeks over the course of the summer. There's generally a calendar sent out or published prior to the end of the school year, which will say what days we're in, and we'll put in our emails. So if you email us, the answer to the first question, if you want to request an elective change after you get your schedule, you can email us. We will also, again, via some information shared towards the end of the year, it'll tell you what letters each counselor has. For example, I generally have students with the last names T through Z. So if your child's last name starts with W, you can email me over the summer. I may not get back to you right away, but I am in over the summer. So I will get back to you, and I will, in my email, tell you the days that I'm available over summer if you wanted to come in to meet face to face.
Someone asked about what tutoring resources are available for math. I'm sorry, was that answered?
No, I don't think so.
There is the math lab that's offered during the lunch block with teachers from the high school. I believe it's offered every day in the rotation A through D.
Yeah,
I'll just speak a little bit more about like extra help and tutoring. All of the teachers are available for extra help multiple times during the week. So the teachers will kind of discuss their availability with the students, but typically during the lunch block is a great time to go for extra help with your teacher. Many teachers allow students to bring their lunch into their room and have like a working session. Most teachers are available after school, and there are late buses to go home as well. And then in addition to, and that's always the first line of defense. If your child is struggling in a class, we always recommend consistently going for extra help with the child's teacher. In addition to that, we do have several peer tutoring programs through the different honor societies. So your child can request a math tutor, and will be, hooked up with an upperclassman who is, has to do volunteer community service hours in the form of tutoring. So that's another great way. And then specifically for math, and I think the world languages also have a rotating lunch tutoring program available. But, there's definitely a variety of different ways that students can get extra help from their teachers and from other people in the school.
And then the AVID program as well, they have dedicated tutors that come into AVID classes to help with those students as well in the core subjects as well, math and in ELA. And those are specifically for our AVID students.
There's a question. What program would be best if my child wants to attend an Ivy League college? I'm just going to be honest. It's really hard. There's no program that specifically will say this program will get your child into an Ivy League college. We tell students all the time, the acceptance rate of Ivy League colleges is about 5%, 6%. So they are rejecting valedictorians. They are rejecting, school presidents. So I'm not saying people can't get in. We've had students get in. I'm saying all you can do is take the most challenging classes that you can handle and do the best you can, whether that's through IMS, whether that's through IH, whether that's through AVID, whether that's through ROTC or the ICE program. There's no program that's going to streamline you to the Ivy League. It's really just a matter of challenging yourself, taking the hardest classes possible, which again, hopefully will probably mean AP classes as you get into high school, as you get in 11th and 12th grade, when you're past a lot of the programs, and doing as well as you can in those. That's really the only thing you can do.
Someone asked if there are requirements for community service hours. we as a school do not have any sort of community service hour requirement. However, there are several programs that do have a community service requirement, one of them being ROTC. So it may be program specific, but unlike some other high schools that do have community service requirement, we do not have one.
I just want to also share that the video will be available tomorrow on the district YouTube website.
Someone asked about school, if the school sells lunch. We do have school lunch, and also we have a free and reduced lunch program. So we encourage any families that think that they might qualify for that program to fill out the lunch application. I will say that parents have to fill out the lunch application every single year. It's not like a one-time thing and then you're good for 4 years. And I will encourage parents to fill out that lunch application every year. Additionally, because if you are eligible for free or reduced lunch, there are a variety of different fee waivers and financial resources that we can provide to your family to help cover the costs of a variety of different things down the line. So we kind of use that as our way of determining if a child is in need of financial assistance.
There are a couple questions about sports. Where do kids interested in sports find out about tryouts? When are fall sports tryouts? I mean, to me, the best place you can go, if you actually Google West Orange High School Athletics, there's a separate West Orange High School Athletics page where the application is there, the announcements are there, the forms you need to get your physical done. I think in 8th grade, they'll probably announce, especially for the fall sports, football, soccer, cheerleading, the other full sports I can think of volleyball. They'll make announcements about meetings. So your 8th graders should be attentive and listen for that. But the best place to go would be the West Orange High School Athletics webpage because all the information's there.
If a teacher does not recommend a student for honors, what is the appeal process? Good question. First of all, we ask teachers to recommend students about this time of year. So it is a little bit early, but I will say that the process can go on for the remainder of the year. So a lot of times a teacher may not feel that they're able to provide a recommendation as of yet, but that they will reevaluate, towards the spring or towards the end of the year. So first step would just be, staying in touch with that child's teacher to see if the recommendation changes. Usually we go by the teacher recommendations. We really do feel that the teachers are in the best position to determine whether or not a child may or may not find success in the honors level classes. That being said, it's ultimately, the family's choice. So if you really want your child to be in an honors class, talk to the school counselor and, we'll do what we can. Each academic department has different, I'll call them requirements, parameters of certain grade levels that students need to meet. So, and it varies, and it varies by department, and it also varies, like if you're leveling up from a regular level class to an honors level class, etc. But I would say just reach out to your child's school counselor, and they can kind of walk you through that process. Ultimately, we want to see children who want to challenge themselves, and colleges want to see that too. So we are not trying to knock anyone, for trying to get into an honors class, but I'll just say from, experience, and I'm sure that the other counselors can kind of chime in here. Usually, the teacher kind of has a pretty good idea of whether or not that child might be successful. And just because they say that they're not successful right now doesn't mean that they're not going to change their mind towards the end of the year or maybe the following year, etc.
Someone asked in the chat, once a student applies for a program, how long do they get an answer? They typically will receive an answer before the end of February. And unfortunately, students are only allowed to apply to one special program. This is only in pertaining to IMS or IH. If the student is not accepted into IMS, the deadline has already passed and the application date for IH has already passed as well. The student can have another opportunity to apply to the program during their sophomore year.
Somebody asked a question about freshmen eating in the cafeteria. Why do freshmen eat in their own cafeteria? And do they have their own cafeteria? And if so, why? Honestly, it's simply because there's 2,200 students all eating lunch at the same time. We have 2 cafeterias. One is for freshmen, actually 3 cafeterias because one of the gyms is used as a cafeteria for 10th graders, I believe, Dr. Chung. 9th graders eat in the cafeteria, and it's really only because there's so many students getting lunch at the same time. It has to be divvied up in some way. Generally, seniors are allowed to leave for lunch. So juniors and seniors will go to one cafeteria, 10th graders will go to another cafeteria, and freshmen will go to a third cafeteria, just, for purposes of making sure everybody gets their food in a timely manner.
Thank you, Mr. Pallante. Yes, you're correct.
I just saw a
Miss
question.
Con-
Someone asked about Mountaineer
Yep.
Mentors. So they talked about, so a part of my job is too, so we have what we call the Mountaineer Mentors here. So it is our peer-to-peer leadership program. So they have, so we have 11th and 12th graders that apply for this program. And what we do, and this is why freshman orientation is so important as well, is that we pair up every incoming freshman or transfer student. So if there's their first year at West Orange High School, we pair them up with another upperclassman who's been here to add another layer of support here. So, and also it's not an adult. Part of that program is, so they also talked about community service, is that Mountaineer Mentors, we do require 30 hours each year for community service to move through that program, which most colleges want to see anyway. So it's just kind of an added thing. And I know that honor societies also require them, but that's another program that we have for those incoming freshmen, so that they have another person who's not an adult. We understand that they don't always want to ask the adults all the questions. So we have a student leader available that each incoming freshman is assigned, and they're supposed to reach out to our upperclassmen, will reach out to them throughout this first year to make sure that they transition well into our school.
There's a couple questions about the IMS and IH electives. One, is there a separate space for IH in the course selection sheet? We have the list. So no, there's not a separate sheet. For IH, students can take any fine or performing art. So that's any class that meets the fine or performing art requirement, in addition to, and don't quote me here, journalism. I should know this. Anyone else? What are the other electives that they can take? Creative writing.
I was about to say creative writing.
Correct.
At one point it was mythology. I don't think mythology was offered this year, but this year it was creative writing and mythology. But again, and
Anthropology,
journalism.
cultural anthropology, but I don't think we're offering that class anymore. It's in the program of study, so the classes that they can choose from. And for IMS, someone asked if all of the IMS electives are accredited towards the career 21st century. I believe that they are. Someone asked about languages in the 9th grade. Good question. So typically, whatever language your child's taking in currently in 8th grade, if they're doing well, they'll be recommended to move up to the next level. We do have many 9th grade students coming in at the 2nd level of the world language. I will say that if your child is not super strong in their world language, it may be a good idea for them to start at the 1st level at the high school. A lot of times our world language programs are pretty rigorous, and by the time you get up to the 2nd and 3rd level, it's pretty challenging. So I've noticed that over the years that students typically are just put into the next level, but if your child is not super strong in the world languages, it may be beneficial for them to start at like Spanish 1 or at French 1 in the high school. We offer French, Italian, Chinese, and Spanish. Those are our 4 languages that we offer.
Lou, you had earmarked the question about IH or IMS shared at Roosevelt as answering live. I didn't know if that was already taken care of.
Well, no, I did that by accident. But
Oh, okay.
what was the question again? I can.
No, they say the list of students recommended for IH or IMS were shared at Roosevelt, but my child wasn't on the list. Can they still have a chance to be part of one of the institutes, or do they need to be recommended?
I would tell the parent to reach out to the counselor, and whether it's Liberty or Roosevelt, to discuss the options there. The one thing I'll tell students all the time is it's early, right? So if there's a lot of improvement, students may not get recommended for honors classes right now, and we'll tell them. A lot of teachers will say, "Come back to me at the end of the 3rd quarter." So I don't know if that 100% applies to the IMS and IH program. But I don't know, Dr. Chung, I don't know if the deadline did the deadline pass to apply for those programs?
No, the deadline is I want to say that first Friday in February, but if
Right.
your child didn't receive an application, they need to see the counselor at their respective middle school. They'll
Your
have the
child
application.
also has to be recommended for both honors classes. So like for IMS, they have to be recommended for both honors math and honors science. For IEH, they have to be recommended for both honors English and honors social studies. So if your child is not recommended for one of those classes, that might be the reason that they're not on the IMS or IH list. I didn't even know there was a list that was already going out, but that might be the reason. And again, like we said, that can change. So if they're not recommended right now, just, follow up with the teacher in the spring and see if it's still a possibility to be recommended for one of those honors classes. Someone else asked about dual credit at Rutgers. Is that the only one? No, I think we have like 7 or 8 different dual enrollment programs in everything from culinary to business to architecture, engineering, accounting. Really testing my knowledge right now. But there's a variety of different dual enrollment programs. They're not all through Rutgers. A lot of them are through other neighboring colleges like Fairleigh Dickinson, Drew, etc. And again, all of this information is in the program of studies.
There's a question, almost sounds similar. If a student applies for IH and AVID and then choose one, if they're selected for both, and if accepted to a special program like AVID, is there an opportunity to decline?
Yeah,
So
so-
here, oh, sorry. I was
No,
gonna say,
go,
if you're applying, so students who are can take IMS and IH, those are like those honors programs. If you're eligible to get into those programs, then AVID is not a choice for you because they're just different levels. So the AVID program is for those students who want to push into honors and aren't there yet, where IH and IMS is for those students who are already in honors.
And in terms of the ability to decline, you certainly can decline it if you don't want to. Similarly, I've had students do IMS for a year and kind of like the expectation is you stick with it for 2 years, for both years, or with AVID, you stick with it for 4 years. But we've had students who have tried it for a year and determined it really wasn't for them. They didn't like the required courses that went with it. It wasn't what they thought it was. So you're not locked in there, without prayer of getting out once you start, right? Typically students, you do have to stick with the class for usually a year. But when we talk about scheduling for the following year, students can choose to withdraw from the program if it's not working for them.
Counselors will meet with our students each year in a variety of different settings. And definitely if a student wants to talk about a certain path that he or she wants to take, that's something that the counselor that's a conversation that the counselor absolutely has with the student. And even during scheduling, like in scheduling, we'll talk about what classes they've taken, what requirements they've met, what requirements they need. And also we'll talk to them because during our scheduling meetings, we all ask them, what are you thinking? What are you thinking as far as, after high school, post high school plans? And that may, trigger an opinion about maybe a new elective or a different path. So yes, we do talk to them about that.
Does Heritage Spanish interfere with any electives? No, it's there in place of world language like Spanish 1, Spanish 2. So it qualifies as the world language requirement. I will say, in speaking to everything, as students get older, as they get to be juniors and seniors, have more of a focus or trying to take, there may be choices that have to be made. I've had students that want to take 2 or 3 different courses and they just aren't going to fit in the schedule, whether it be AP courses. I've had students that have chosen to discontinue the world language because they wanted to take 2 or 3 science courses because they were more interested in that. And these are conversations we'll have with both students and parents through the course. So that eventually may become an issue, but early on, freshman, sophomore year, there's room for all of that.
Someone asked if there's a list of clubs and sports. There are a list of clubs and sports on the district website for the high school specifically.
I can actually post a link if you want.
You'll have to send it to me, Aldo.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Is there any way to advance one math course ahead by way of double math scheduling or summer courses outside of West Orange High School, specifically for those not on the advanced math path but would like to end senior year with calculus? There is. It's a very specific policy that exists. I had a student who did it last summer. She was pre-approved to take a math course at Newark Academy over the summer for credit, but no grade. So the grade did not go towards her GPA. And I don't want to get into the details of it. There is a policy that exists. You can do it one time for one class. You can take the class. You have to get, a B or better in the class. And then you have to come take a final exam and get an 80 or better in the final exam in order to get West Orange High School credit. So it goes in your transcript as passing. You get credit for it, but you do not get a grade, so it doesn't affect your GPA. And you do it for advancement so that you can maybe move ahead in a math class, be able to take calculus perhaps as a senior. Yeah, I mean, I don't speak for the math supervisor, but he usually recommends you do that later on, like between sophomore and junior, or even junior and senior year. So he does not recommend students do something like that over the summer because it's a abbreviated or incredibly intense course to take over the summer, and it works better for students later on.
Someone wants to say, how do you counsel students who want to go down one path yet clearly excel in another path and are not considering other routes?
For me, I was with the student today who, was a little confused, I guess to say, about, what path they wanted to take after high school. And so I had the student do a career interest survey. And what it did was it kind of exposed him to careers in areas that he didn't even think he didn't even know about. So in that case, and I don't know if I'm answering the question, but in that case, he was able to, it was able to open his eyes in different career paths. So because of that, he was then able to select electives that aligned with those career paths.
I also want to say that, like, there's so much pressure on kids to kind of know what they want to do when they go to college. And it's great if they do. We really push the kids all 4 years to try a variety of different electives in addition to the ones that are required, in an effort to try and figure out what they want to do. A lot of times they don't necessarily figure out what they want to do, but they maybe would figure out what they don't want to do. So if a kid tells me, oh, I'm going to major in actually, I had a kid today who said, I'm going to major in computer programming in college. And I was like, okay, have you ever taken like a programming or a coding class here? And we looked at his transcript and he hadn't. So that was an opportunity for me to be like, and he was a senior and, he was like, I don't know if I want to take it. I was like, next year is your last year to take any sort of class for free. So try it in high school. And if nothing else, you can possibly figure out that maybe isn't the career path for you. But we really try not to pressure the students to know exactly what they want to do, because it's not necessarily necessary. Students can go into college undecided. I, for one, changed careers as an adult. So, it's not like the end all be all if they don't know exactly which career path they want to enter into, as a 14-year-old.
We're gonna end it with the last two questions in the chat. I can address the last question: what accommodations are made in classrooms with autistic students? That varies only because the student is classified, the student's special education, so the case manager and the IEP team meets to discuss accommodations that are appropriate for that student. It depends on the level of functioning of that student, because we have various programs of special at the high school, from an 18 to 21 program. We have a mild cognitive program. So there's different levels to answer that question. But if the student is classified, the case manager and the school counselor work very close together for all 4 years while that student is enrolled.
And then the last question that we had set up was, what is the advantage of being in the IMS program versus just taking all of honors classes and the electives that are encompassed within the program?
The only advantage would be if your child is super interested in STEM, it might help them figure out what area of STEM they're interested in. But other than that, the curriculum for the honors IMS classes and the honors non-IMS classes is the same. So there is no advantage.
Biggest thing I would say is a cohort. So students take some of the classes together. They all take honors biology together. They take honors chemistry together. And what's the other one? Honors, whatever honors math they're in. So some take honors algebra 2, some take honors geometry. So it's a cohort. As Mr. Casale was saying earlier, there's speakers and trips. So it's more intangible benefits outside of the classroom that can benefit students. But like Ms. Rosen was saying, it's like there's no GPA in terms of GPA weightedness for honors classes, for IMS classes. I've had conversations with parents in the past who think that the IMS honors classes should be given more weight than a non-IMS honors bio, and that's just not how it goes because, like you said, the curriculum's the same.
This presentation will be available on the district website tomorrow, and it'll be posted so that you can watch it again, and hopefully we've answered all of your questions. I'd like to thank everybody that participated tonight in asking the questions. I'd like to thank Mr. Pallante, Mrs. Rosen, Ms. Connors, and Mr. Casale, and Ms. Graftisa for their time tonight. Thank you so much. I wish everyone a great evening. We look forward to meeting your students next year at the high school and working with you parents and guardians over the next few years as well. Thank you so much. If you have any questions or anything, please feel free to send me an email. My email was listed as the last slide in the presentation. I will also place it in the chat. Or Lauren, do you place it? Is it okay if I place it?
You won't be able to. I will do that right quick before we end the meeting here.
All right. Thank you so much, Lauren.
Thank you very much, and everyone have a wonderful, wonderful night. Thank you.
Bye-bye.